Test, test, check 1, 2. You know you need unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Does that sound all right? Ah, that's better. You can always tell something's missing when you get isolated results, like AI that's only right for one of your systems. Get AI that can work across your data and applications. Learn more at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
Today on CityCast Portland, we're getting into one of Portland's greatest offerings this time of year, local farmers markets. So Brian Vance of Montevilla, founder of Stumptown Savings, is here to tell us which farmers markets you should check out to find the best deals, the best vibes, and of course, the best local produce. It's Tuesday, June 17th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Brian, you're a Portland farmers market evangelist, is what I've gathered from our friendship.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Right. What do you think sets Portland apart? Like, why are Portland farmers markets so special?
I mean, the big thing that comes to mind is just the sheer number of them. Like when you think of other cities, even cities that are bigger than Portland, they maybe have like 2 or 3 farmers markets in the whole city. You know, like that's the way it is. They're typically not year round. In Portland, we have well over 24 in the metro area. Several of them are year round. But you also just have like this unique mix of these like bigger markets that people really think of when they come to Portland. And then these like smaller, more grassroots things that are happening with unique missions and serving very distinct populations of Portlanders. It's just like we do it in a very Portland way, which is like everybody just kind of has their own version of a farmer's market, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. I totally get what you're saying. You know, we've actually done like a farmer's market episode like 2 years ago.
I remember.
Yeah, it was John's sister who used to run the Portland farmers markets because I guess there's like an actual organization.
There's a bigger organization, that runs a handful of them. Yeah, so like there is technically no Portland Farmers Market as in a market that you go to. There's an organization called the Portland Farmers Market, which is the people behind the PSU Farmers Market, the Szymanski Park Farmers Market, the King Farmers Market, the Kenton Farmers Market, and the Lentz International Farmers Market. So those are all technically Portland Farmers Market. Then there's a bunch of other independent farmers markets that happen in Portland that are not affiliated with the Portland Farmers Market.
Yeah, and I researched it, and that's also very unique to Portland, which is crazy. You know, that there's actually like an organization that also works with the state because they work with the state to see how to get EBT implemented in farmers markets. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
But your newsletter, Stumptown Savings, is all about finding the best grocery deals in Portland. I feel like we are just plugging you right now. But I mean, it's true. I'm a member and I love it. So for those who are new, I'm just like, this is the angle that we're looking at this right now. It's like, okay, how are we going to get our savings at a farmer's market? Because it's so easy.
How are we going to do it without going broke?
It is so easy to go broke.
It is. I mean, the way markets are set up, you get to smell everything, you get to see everything. It can have like a festival-like atmosphere, like some of the more lively ones, and you just get roped into conversations and you see these like beautiful strawberries and next thing you know, you've dropped like $60 on 3 items at the farmer's market. That can definitely happen.
What's your strategy for getting the best deals at farmers markets?
There's a few different things, honestly. So the big one, which is honestly like the best strategy in general for shopping for food, whether it's at markets, at grocery stores, at co-ops, whatever, is have a list. It doesn't need to be a set in stone list, but have a general idea of what it is you're looking for before you head out to the store. That will allow you to avoid sort of the, well, I don't know what sounds good kind of trap, which leads to a bunch of impulse purchases. So that's going to be a huge benefit. Part of that is also just keeping an eye on what's in season. Don't go to the farmer's market in Portland expecting to get bananas. We don't grow them here, so you're not going to find them. What the farmer's market is great at is getting truly seasonal food. So things that are grown locally that are of this time, of this moment. So like right now, it is strawberry season. That is a great reason to go to the farmer's market. That is a great thing to look for. And so having that kind of plan, that kind of list is really going to help. The biggest thing, though, is do a lap before you buy anything. Like it is, and I actually am guilty of this often. I should listen to myself here, but like walk the entire market before you buy a single thing. Because there are typically multiple vendors selling that same item. or variations of that item. Like this just happened to me recently. I went to the Hillsdale Farmers Market. There was a stand that had dozens and dozens of pints of fresh Hood strawberries. I absolutely love Hood strawberries. And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
let's get those. And my wife was like, no, let's see who else has them. Because you can price compare. You can see, okay, does this vendor, are they selling them at a slightly different price? Do they have different varieties of it? Do they sell in bulk? Like if you want to buy in bulk, you typically save, and some farmers market vendors will even negotiate with you. It's definitely up to each vendor, and you need to be respectful and understand that margins are thin for these operators. But do the lap, kind of do your research in the field before you go in and make any purchases. That right there is going to save you some pain in your wallet from too many impulse purchases.
Oh, for sure. And just buying and eating in season is generally a lot cheaper because you're not paying for those truck prices of getting those
Exactly.
mangoes and stuff like that. Though I love mangoes.
And those do not grow here, so they
I
do
know
have to
they
be
do
shipped
not,
in.
because that'd be so funny. Just come back. I'm like, I went to the farmer's market. That's how you know you're lying. Just like,
Yeah.
is that a breadfruit? That doesn't even
Right, like
grow in this
that's not-
hemisphere.
Durian doesn't grow here. Like you didn't get that at the farmer's market.
I did. All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Brian's picks for must-visit farmers markets. Paint Care has 3 simple rules to help you reduce paint waste. 1, buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, use up what you have. And 3, recycle the rest at conveniently located drop-off sites in your neighborhood. Paint Care even offers direct pickups for households and businesses with more than 100 gallons of leftover paint. Learn more or find a paint drop-off site near you at paintcare.org/3simplerules. The 2025 Invent Oregon Finals are taking place on Friday, June 27th. It's Oregon's only statewide collegiate invention competition. It's also the culmination of an 8-week program that provides students with essential tools that include funding and mentors to prepare them to present their inventions to their peers and industry experts and key players in Oregon's entrepreneurial ecosystem. They're also vying for their share of $30,000 in cash prizes. So come see some of Oregon's brightest minds battle it out on June 27th at the University of Portland on Willamette Boulevard. Get your free tickets on Eventbrite. The link is in our show notes. Well, let's break down the area's farmers markets into a few categories because there are so many. So first there are what I call, like, I guess the bigger markets. Like you already mentioned, PSU Saturday Market comes to mind, which is open all year. So I'm assuming that the ones that we're talking about, the big markets, are they all open all year long then?
Yeah, for the most part, these big ones are open year round. So when you think of the big ones in the area, there are a handful that come to mind. The PSU Saturday Market, PSU Saturday Farmers Market, not to be confused with the Portland Saturday Market. Those are two different things.
Well, I mean, for one, it's not called the PSU Saturday Market, right?
That's true.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah. But just to clarify for anyone who may be like, I've never seen, apples at the Portland Saturday Market, that's because we're talking about a different thing. This market happens every Saturday year round on the South Park blocks on the campus of Portland State University. Features around 70 to 90 vendors every week, so it's pretty large. And then there are some other markets that fall into the similar model around the city. So actually, I live in Montevilla. The Montevilla Farmers Market, also year round. Also,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's year round.
Wow.
And so a lot of them, when they're year round, the way it works is they're every week during the peak summer season. And then in the winter, they typically fall back to an every other week, but they're still year round. So in December, you can go to these markets and get storage produce. So, squash and onions and things like that. When you go a little bit outside of Portland city limits, there's actually some interesting other ones too. So the Beaverton Farmers Market that happens every week year round, downtown Beaverton is massive. It's like, I think 140 vendors typically.
Whoa.
So it's this huge thing. It's like right off of a Max line. It's super easy to get to. It's really neat in that a lot of the Portland farmers markets are like really focused on food. So really focused on farmers and food producers. Some of the other large markets that aren't necessarily inside the city of Portland limits will expand a little bit. Beaverton has a few things that don't necessarily fall into the food market, a little bit of crafts, a little bit of services. And then that brings me to the biggest one in the area, which is actually across the river in Vancouver. This market is so big that it actually has 2 locations during the summer.
Whoa.
So they have downtown and then they have an east location, East Vancouver. It also takes place over 3 different days during the summer. So 2 days downtown. That's Saturdays and Sundays at the main downtown location. And then on Thursday afternoons and evenings in East Vancouver. The main downtown one can sometimes feature as many as 200 vendors. And it's
That's
a
crazy.
really unique experience because it's massive. It takes place in this really cool area that you're sort of like in the middle of a park and you're just kind of wandering around, and everywhere you go, there's a vendor selling either produce or craft goods. Or what's really cool about this is some vendors come for both days, but there are some vendors who only show up for one or the other. So you can actually go on both Saturday and Sunday, and you're going to get a different experience.
That's so cool. What's the tax situation there?
You do pay tax.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That is the thing. But it depends. Not everything. I can't exactly remember how it works in Washington, but not all food
I don't
is
think
taxed.
all food. I think prepared food is taxed.
Yeah, it's like if you buy like a burrito there, like you're going to get taxed. If you buy like apples or strawberries, like that's not going to be. But if you buy like some of the craft goods there, yeah, you're going to pay tax. Like, you know, they did away with that whole show us your Oregon driver's license and get off tax-free thing several years ago. So that is a drawback. But if you live in Vancouver,
Honestly,
it's
I
fine.
feel like it should be reciprocated. It should be like, where are you from? No, you got to pay tax.
you got to pay tax.
So mean. Wouldn't that be terrible?
That'd be awful.
We'd lose so much money.
There's border control on the
I know.
I-5 bridge.
We're just like, you know what? We're going to do this here. All right. Okay. I think the most convenient thing for a lot of us are like the smaller neighborhood farmers markets, because out of all the big ones that you just stated, I've only been to the PSU Saturday market.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to hit all of them because they sound awesome. But I tend to just get up on a Saturday, walk 2 blocks to the St. John's Farmers Market. And though it is very small,
Yeah.
in like a smallish parking lot, it's still like my favorite because it's the one that's closest to
It's
me.
right there.
You know,
I have never been to the St. John's Market, actually. It is one that I definitely need to check out. I actually think there could be a fun little like Pokemon-esque Gotta Catch 'em All farmers market campaign in the
so
summer.
Cool. Sometimes they should do something like this because that would be
Yeah.
so cute. And like, especially if every farmer's market had a specially designed Pokemon. Do you know? Like, you're like,
Where you
okay,
really
what
do
is this?
collect it.
So like, what would the St. John's Poke? It would definitely live under a bridge. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It'd be like a little troll type thing. Yeah. That is the thing, is there are so many neighborhood markets. And I think that that's actually the best market for you, is like the one that makes the most sense. So there are these bigger markets. They're great for people who live in the suburbs like Vancouver, Beaverton, Gresham, etc. They have their markets. But in Portland, we're surrounded by a bunch of these neighborhoods, which in a lot of ways feel like their own communities. And many neighborhoods have their own farmers markets. And some that are really interesting. The Rocky Butte Farmers Market. This is actually a relatively new market. It technically only got started through like a Facebook poll in like 2017,
shoot.
but
Wow.
didn't even actually hire its first employee and go weekly until like 2022. They do a really cool thing where they team up with 2 other markets. So the Woodlawn and the Cully Market. And in addition to offering the Double Up Food Bucks program that every farmers market in Oregon offers, which is if you get SNAP EBT benefits, every market day, so every day you visit a farmer's market, you can get up to $20 in matching funds. So they do that as well. But
That's
they
so
are
cool.
a part of this program called the Full Basket Program, which is if you are on SNAP, EBT, Oregon Health Plan, you get housing subsidies. There's literally a long list of more than a dozen different ways you qualify, including just a one-time hardship qualification. They do this Full Basket Program, which gives you $50 in market credits that can be used at the Rocky Butte, the Cully, or the Woodlawn Market every week. No strings attached. It's not matching. It's just $50 in credits that you can use.
That's so cool.
Rocky Butte is doing some really cool food access things, and that's a really cool one to check out, especially if you're east of 82nd. There's actually not that many farmers markets east of 82nd. There's the Rocky Butte and the Lentz one are the 2 that really come to mind. And Rocky Butte's a lot bigger than the Lentz one. The Lentz one's really tiny. Another market that it's smaller than the big guys, than the bigger markets, but it's, about 50 vendors and is also year round, is the Hollywood Farmers Market. Technically happens in the parking lot of a grocery store, which I think is kind of ironic.
Yeah. Which grocery store does it happen in?
It is the Bargain Market Grocery Outlet in Hollywood. And it's every Saturday in the summer. Really fun vibes. I mean, the Hollywood area is just this really unique neighborhood. Another market that is probably smaller than the St. John's Market that I like, that I've been to a few times over the years, is the South Waterfront Farmers Market. This is an odd sort of like afternoon, evening market that takes place in the Elizabeth Carruthers Park right there in the South Waterfront. It is somewhere around 10 to 20 vendors each week. It really
At
depends on.
night?
It happens at night, technically the afternoon into the night, but it's a Thursday evening market. So it really caters to people who are working at OHSU, to people who are working in some of those other businesses in the South Waterfront.
That's so cute.
So you can get off work
Yeah.
and go.
I love the South Waterfront. A lot of people find it to be like bougie and weird or whatever. And I'm like, this is one of the only areas that you're not like, a lot of people were displaced. This was like not gentrification. This was actually a utilization of space that nobody was using. Imagine that.
Yeah, right. It was, yeah. And it's like, it's very dense. It's incredibly walkable.
Yeah. It's
that
beautiful.
park is actually cool. There's just some really neat design going on in that park, spaces to sort of congregate and hang out.
Yeah.
Basically, the farmers market takes place on the sidewalk around the park, and then people are hanging out in the park, and there's music, and there's people with their dogs, and it's just got this really cool vibe. And it's, most farmers markets tend to happen on weekends. And if you're someone who really likes to use your weekends to, go hiking, to go whitewater rafting, enjoy the nature around here, these weeknight farmers markets are a really great way to still get that local produce shopping experience in and reserving your weekends for what's fun.
Right. Let's take another quick break here, and when we return, some specialty farmers markets to check out.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. Have you ever picked a vacation spot based on where you won't need a phrase book? With Babbel, the language barrier no longer has to hold you back. You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based techniques, which quickly teach you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. Babbel has more than a dozen languages available for you to learn at your own pace, with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm David Ploth, CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. What I really love about learning Spanish with Babbel is that it works with me where I am. The app and the website keep track of what I've learned. They help me review what I probably forgot from last time, and always is keeping me engaged with a new challenge based on actual conversations I might have in Spain or Mexico or Colombia, especially food conversations, because I love food conversations. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to give you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast, spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
All right, so finally, you wanted to shout out a few independent markets with programming that highlights food and vendors from specific communities. And that's really interesting because I didn't know there were specialty farmers markets. So what are a few you think that people should really check out?
Yeah, so the Cully Farmers Market, this is actually the market that organizes that full basket program that I was talking about with the Rocky Butte Farmers Market. So they administer this program in collaboration with the Woodlawn Farmers Market and the Rocky Butte Farmers Market. The Cully Farmers Market is really unique in that it is entirely run by the Native American, I forget what it's called.
Oh, I know it's NAYA. It's NAYA. Yeah. Native American Youth and Family Center. Amazing organization. Not only do they help run this market, which is so funny because I'm like, I've never heard of these specialty markets. And I was like, oh yeah, the NAYA market. Because in my head, it's the NAYA market.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people think of it that way, but it's actually the Cully Farmers Market.
That's so cool.
They took over what was the Cully Farmers Market. They now run it. It has a very strong focus on indigenous and BIPOC growers and food producers. And they have just a bunch of unique food access programs going on. So not only do they do Oregon Food Bucks, not only do they do this full basket program, they also give away baskets of produce at every market to people who are attending. They just do a lot of things to really make sure that they're not only supporting farmers, but they're supporting people in the community and making this as accessible as possible. And then there's the Come Through Market, which is relatively newer. I think it's only been around for like 5 or 6 years at this point. This happens every first and third Monday at the Red in the Central East Side. This is a BIPOC-focused farmers market that does something really cool. They actually operate as sort of like a business incubator. So they have a farmer training program where they will help BIPOC farmers who are just getting started figure out, like, how do you actually do this? But they also, part of the market is to help train you on how to run a successful market stand. Like, there are a lot of things that go into having a booth at a farmer's market that don't come natural to someone who's a farmer. Like, most people get into farming to grow food, not to have social media accounts that promote the sales that they're going to do and make TikToks, showing like what's going on at their vendor booth, and, may not necessarily know the ins and outs of how to set up a square machine and all that kind of stuff. This market is doing a lot of really cool work and actually supporting those vendors in getting started. They're providing that like helping hand that a lot of the other markets don't necessarily have the time or the resources to do. And it's open to anyone who wants to come. But what's really cool is you're getting to see farmers who you may not notice at some of the other farmers markets. And so because of that, you're also getting to experience some unique products and some unique crafts and services and whatnot that may not appear at some of the other more farm-focused markets.
Yeah. So I know that Naya's market, or the Cully Farmers Market that is now run by Naya, they have this yearly holiday market where there's these really beautiful crafts, and it's sometimes they have food, but mainly it's like crafts and gifts, local indigenous people who are, making these amazing jewelry pieces or whatever. Does Come Through Market have something similar? I'm just curious if they, aside from this farmers market, if they also have like a crafts market during the holiday season.
I don't know about like specific to the holiday season, but I will say what's interesting about their market is it's not just food. So you will regularly find people who are selling services like, energy healing or palm reading. You will find craft makers there. That is actually really interesting because in Portland, another thing that makes the Portland farmers market scene unique is most farmers markets are specifically focused on food. They might occasionally do a craft market tied to the holiday season, like here in Montevilla. I know the Montevilla farmers market does one in the winter, but if you go there right now, you're not going to find people who are selling like, knitted sweaters or blankets or things like that, because they're very focused on food. The Come Through Market actually has a nice blend of those types of vendors so that you get a little bit of that like traditional community market vibe that goes beyond just produce.
That's awesome. Okay, so are there any other particular food items that you're most excited to see at the markets this year? What is like your thing that you're looking out for?
The thing I'm most excited about, I mean, strawberry season was a huge one for me. It's going to be going on for a little while, but like hood season is basically coming to an end already. They have a notoriously short season. The next thing I'm super excited about is cherry season. Like I love Rainier cherries in particular, and being able to get those fresh at the market. It's amazing. And then you're not going to find this at every farmer's market because we don't grow a ton of peaches in like the Willamette Valley, but we have a huge peach growing area just across the mountain in the Hood River Valley. And so some of the markets that are a little bit further east in Portland, you'll get access to a ton of fresh peaches and apricots in the summer. And wow, they're just amazing. It's like you get different varieties. It's so much more than what you will just find at a grocery store where it's just called a peach. And maybe it's white, maybe it's yellow, but that's it. Like you actually get to experience different varieties that have unique characteristics and unique flavor profiles. So those are the two things I'm most excited about this summer.
That's nice. Just a PSA, farmers don't like it when you test their peaches for ripeness. Just a heads up.
Be respectful of the produce.
It's so funny because we're all raised by supermarket wolves,
You don't have to do that at a farmer's market because that's the beauty of it, is they're not picking this stuff weeks in advance, typically before it's even ripened, and packing it in special containers to help it ripe. They're often picking this stuff the day before the market, and they're up at the crack of dawn loading that thing. So you can rest assured that when you go to a farmer's market, you are getting the freshest produce that you can possibly get. So you don't need to check for firmness or ripeness or anything like that. They've already done that for you.
Yeah. Well, for those who are new to the area, who don't know about amazing farmers markets, thank you so much for breaking some of this down. For sure, I am now more eager to go check some of these out because I tend to just go to the St. John's one, but this Cully one's calling me. The South Waterfront Farmers Market, cute. Evening, yes.
Right.
And I haven't been to the PSU one in so long. And that to me is just like, that is the largest, craziest one. It's so much fun.
It's got a reputation for a reason, it's the OG basically.
Yeah. Well, I guess Beaverton, maybe. Maybe I'll try that one too. Maybe I'll go to all of them. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to all of them.
We'll do something, some town savings to incentivize people to get out there. But yeah, collect them all, hit them all up.
I love it. I love this Pokemon. I think you got to do it. All right, man. Well, thanks, Brian.
Thanks for having me on, Claudia.
Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.